The Psychology of Money. Timeless Lessons on Wealth, Greed, and Happiness. Author, Morgan Housel. Chapter 1. No One's Crazy. Different generations, raised in different families with different incomes and values, have very different experiences in understanding how money should be handled. What seems inadequate to you makes perfect sense to me. The whole point is that we have lived different lives and formed different experiences that each of us finds most compelling. And people with the same intelligence may have different views on where to invest money and to what extent it is acceptable to take risks. Unless you have lived through a crisis or bankruptcy yourself, it is impossible to understand it to the extent that it affects your behavior. Therefore, some lessons can't be learned until you've experienced them. Economists have found that people make life-changing investment decisions based solely on the experiences of their generation, and mostly in their younger years. If inflation was high while growing up, people are unlikely to invest in bonds in adulthood. Neither intelligence nor education plays a role. It's all about the time period in which you were to be born. Or, for example, statistically, lottery tickets are mostly bought by the lowest income families. Low-income families, and on average they spend $400 a year instead of saving it. That being said, they will not be able to scrape together that $400 in an emergency. This may seem reckless to you, but if you look at it from the perspective of low-income people, it seems like they're doing the right thing. Because they're living from paycheck to paycheck, they have no prospect of a raise, they can't save up for a new car or go on vacation. That is, they don't have the chance to make decisions that those who read books on financial topics or were born into a wealthy family can make. Buying a lottery ticket is the only way for them to fulfill a dream that you have already realized and consider to be as something quite ordinary. But it happens that having won a large amount of money, they do not know what to do with it, and therefore spend it left and right, and in a year or two, find themselves in the same place where they were before they won the lottery. People can also do inadequate things because they are new to finance. For example, taking out loans for education or some expensive electronics. What may seem crazy to some may seem logical to me. However, there are no crazy people among us. We make all decisions based on our own unique experiences that seem reasonable to us at the moment. Chapter 2. Luck and Risk. Risk and luck go hand in hand. That's what happened to Bill Gates. If the school he attended had not allocated money for a computer that was popular at the time, and he had not been one of those few 300 students, he would not have achieved what he has now. Yes, Gates is smart and hardworking, but he had a 1 in a million chance to be one of the lucky few who had access to a computer. But it works the other way too. Gates had a friend who went to school with him who was just as obsessed with computers, but he died in an accident in the mountains before he could even graduate from high school. The odds of dying at school age are about 1 in a million. Bill Gates was lucky. His friend had a 1 in a million chance. The same odds, the same force, but acting in the opposite direction. The world is a very complex place, and there is no guarantee that your actions will be 100% successful. Even doing the same thing as a successful person, you may not succeed, because their success may have been influenced by many other factors that you didn't consider. For example, much of the investment success of one of the greatest investors, Benjamin Graham, was due to the fact that he owned a huge stake in GEICO, which by his own admission violated almost all the rules of diversification that he wrote about in his famous works. If that company had gone bankrupt, he would have lost everything. Now a lot of people would say it was a deliberate strategy because it worked out well, but in fact, it's just a lucky break. And there are many such stories. So pay attention not so much to individuals and certain circumstances, but to general patterns. Chapter 3. Never Enough. One of the ills of our society, which has affected many of its wealthiest and most powerful members, is that they see no boundaries and do not know the meaning of the word enough. Rajat Gupta, for example, came from a very poor family and was orphaned as a teenager. At times he did not even have anything to eat. Thanks to his success and good fortune, by the age of 40, Gupta had become the head of the world's most respected consulting firm. Consulting firm in the world. He went on to partner with Bill Gates and sat on the boards of 5 publicly traded companies. Gupta's fortune was estimated to be worth $100 million. He could afford absolutely anything, but he didn't have not enough. He wanted to be a billionaire. After learning through classified information that Warren Buffett wanted to invest a huge in one of the banks, Gupta instantly purchased 175,000 shares of the bank's stock. And when a few hours later, the announcement of the deal between Buffett and the bank took place, the bank's stock skyrocketed in value. The SEC Securities and Exchange Commission alleges that, in general, using insider information, Gupta has been unlawfully obtained proceeds in the amount of $17 million. Gupta eventually went to prison for using of insider information in the stock market, and his career and reputation were ruined. Now you can see that he didn't have a sense of sufficiency. Many rich people, no matter how much money they have, may even commit crimes just to make more money. To make money they don't need, they risk the funds they already have. This is just plain idiotic. So remember a few things. First, the hardest thing to do financially is to stop in time. If expectations increase with results, there is no point in trying to achieve more, because your ambitions start to grow faster than your satisfaction. Life loses its appeal if you lack a sense of sufficiency. Second, the problem of comparing yourself to those around you. Imagine a rookie baseball player who makes $500,000 a year. By any standard, he could be considered a rich man. But he will compare himself to some star who makes $40 million a year. For any star, that is an unthinkable amount of money. But the star will be comparing himself already with those people who are among the top 10 highest paid managers and who make $340 million a year. The people in that top 10 will compare themselves to those people who earn even more, etc. Winning this race is unrealistic, and the only way to win is to stay out of it and realize that you have enough money, even if someone in your environment makes more. Third, enough does not mean little. If a person feels that he has enough, then he realizes that continuing will bring him to a point where he may regret not stopping. This could be emotional burnout from too much work, or an asset allocation in investments that exceeds your risk threshold. Failure to give up an extra dollar will get you in trouble sooner or later. Fourth, there are many things not worth risking for, no matter what profit is at stake. Reputation is priceless. Freedom and independence are priceless. Family and friends are priceless. The love of someone you care about is priceless. The best way to keep all of these things going is a clear understanding of when you need to stop so you don't jeopardize what you hold dear. Chapter 4. Confounding Compounding. The timing of when you're going to start investing plays a huge role in how much you'll have saved by the end of your life. Accumulation is affected by the compound interest effect. Warren Buffett has such a fortune simply because he started investing from the age of 10 and has been doing it his whole life. This effect works everywhere. For example, in the 1950s, the maximum capacity of a hard disk drive was 3.5 megabytes. In the 1960s, 20 MB. In the 1970s, 70 megabytes. And then bang, in 1999, a 6 gigabyte hard drive. In 2003, 120 gigabytes. In 2006, 250 GB, and in 2011, 4 terabytes, and so on. This is a good example of how compound interest works too. Chapter 5. Getting Wealthy versus Staying Wealthy. The only way to preserve your wealth is through a combination of frugality and paranoia. It is one thing to earn money and quite another to keep it. You have to be prepared for the possibility that everything you have earned may disappear. You should be frugal and realize that your earnings are at least partly due to luck and that past achievements are not necessarily eternal. Remember, first, there are no profits worth risking the risk of losing everything. Second, don't forget about compound interest. It only shows up if you allow your assets to grow over many years. It's the same as planting an oak tree. In 1 year, you will not see a big increase, but in 10 years, the changes are already significant, and in 50 years, the changes are simply amazing. Warren Buffett never went into debt, didn't panic and sell his assets during the 14 recessions he's been through, never sullied his business reputation, didn't get locked into one single strategy or approach, didn't rely on other people's money. You need to realize 3 things. First, I don't need big profits so much as I need financial stability. Being financially invulnerable will give me the ability to last long enough for the compound interest effect to work. Only an uninterrupted flow of income into an investment account, especially in times of chaos and devastation, will get you ahead. Second, planning is important, but it's even more important to plan steps for when things don't go according to plan. For example, no one can predict the collapse of the real estate market, a financial crisis, or the spread of a virus. Therefore, usually make 3 different forecasts: the ideal situation, more or less, and failure. In this case, you will already have a plan for saving and allocating funds to other investments, etc. Third, a person should be optimistic about the future on the one hand and paranoid on the other. Chapter 6. Tales You Win. Collectors can buy up entire collections of art. Perhaps 99% of the works will turn out to be cheap, but it doesn't matter if the remaining 1% are works, that will be worth a fortune. The same is true in many other areas of business and investment. The long tails, as they call the small category of commodities that are in demand only in narrow circles, play a significant role in the financial world, where single events can produce the bulk of returns. The bottom line is that an investor who is wrong half the time can get rich. For example, Disney's first studio went bankrupt. It was extremely expensive to produce its movies and didn't cover all of its loans. By the mid-1930s, Disney had produced more than 400 cartoons. Many of them were liked by the audience, but in general brought one loss. It was Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs that changed everything. $8 million, which this movie earned in the first 6 months, overlapped all the losses incurred by the company earlier. All the debts of the organization were paid off. The company bought itself new studios and equipment, and its business was booming. That is, 1 movie out of 400 shot, and provided the company with a bright future. That is why diversification is so important in investing. If even 5 companies are in the negative, one can shoot up and cover all the losses. Once you recognize the importance of tails in business, investing, and finance, you'll realize that a lot of bad decisions, mistakes, failures, and downfalls are normal. It will be enough for you to make the right choices only half the time. Chapter 7. Freedom. Being able to manage your time is the most significant dividends that money can bring. A person's confidence that he or she is in complete control of his or her life, namely doing what he or she wants, when he or she wants, and with whom he or she wants, makes him or her happy. When you start investing, you gradually, step by step, reach a level of independence and autonomy that gives you the ability to decide for yourself what to do and when to do it. Emergency money for 6 months means you have no need to fear your boss, because you know you won't be lost if you suddenly need to look for a new job. Or if you get sick, you can rest easy without doing anything. Having an even larger sum gives you the opportunity to choose a job with a lower salary but flexible hours. Then you have the option to retire when you want to, not when you can. Now, most people spend their wealth on acquiring more and more expensive things while losing more and more control over time. Chapter 8. Man in the Car Paradox. If you see a person driving a nice car, you rarely have the thought, wow, what a cool-looking guy is behind the wheel. Instead, you think, if I had a car like that, everyone would think I was cool. In reality, your acquisitions don't impress anyone as much as they impress you. And what you want is not a new car and a big house, but for people to treat you with respect and admiration. And you think that expensive things can help with that. In reality, this is almost never the case, especially when it comes to the people you most want respect and admiration from. Demonstrating modesty, kindness, and empathy will get you there sooner than any fast auto. Chapter 9. Wealth is what you don't see. If you spend money to show people how much money you have, you'll end up with little. When a Ferrari drives past you, you intuitively assume that the owner is rich. But you find out later that this person has taken out a loan and will be working for years just to pay it off. Modern capitalism gives people plenty of opportunities to demonstrate fake wealth. Perhaps this person really is rich, but the only conclusion that can be drawn is that he had $100,000 more before he bought the car. The expensive car we didn't buy. Diamonds, that we didn't buy. Watches and clothes we don't wear. Wealth is financial assets that aren't spent on visible things. Singer Rihanna nearly went bankrupt as a result of overspending, and her financier said, "Does she really need to be told that if she spends money on things, she'll have things but no money?" And that's the way it is with most people. When they claim they want to be millionaires, what they really mean is this: I want to spend $1 million. And this is the exact opposite of what we envision when we talk about a millionaire. Most people deep down, they want to be rich. They crave freedom and flexibility. But deeply ingrained in our nature is the notion that money is made to be spent. And we don't want to see that this prevents us from being truly rich. Chapter 10. Save money. Wealth has little to do with the amount of your income or return on investment, but it has a lot to do with how much of that money you are able to save. If you believe that building wealth requires more money and higher investment returns, it's easy to become pessimistic. If, on the other hand, you believe that wealth can be achieved through your own frugality and increased efficiency, then the goal becomes clear and achievable. Wealth is what has been retained from income after making expenditures, but you have no chance of wealth if you don't know how to save. Let's say I invest at 8% interest and you at 12%, but I am more efficient with my money. I need half as much money to feel happy, whereas your lifestyle eats up all your income. As a result, I get better results than you, even though I invest worse. I get more value from my income even though it is lower than yours. A higher savings rate is achieved by cutting back on spending. The less you spend, the more you have left over. You can also reduce the number of your needs. They can be lowered by worrying less about what other people might think of you. You don't need specific reasons to save money. You can save just for the sake of saving so that you have a cash reserve in the future. Chapter 11. Nothing's free. Success in investing has a price, but it's not measured in dollars, it's measured in volatility, fear, doubt, uncertainty, and regret. The price in this case will be your nerves, which the market continuously by giving you money and then taking it back. For example, before the coronavirus, people put huge amounts of money into stocks because they saw that they were going up very quickly. But then they plummeted and people got scared of that. They started selling everything they used to buy at twice the price. There are ups and downs that happen throughout the life of the stock market, and the ones who get the best out of it are the ones who understand that and don't panic when stocks go down. And people have a choice: either put up with volatility and its ups and downs, or find a more reliable and cheaper asset. If you view volatility as a fee for success, events appear in a completely different light. Chapter 12. You and Me. Beware of financial advice from people who are not playing the same game as you. For example, ask yourself a question: how much would you pay today for a share of Google stock? The answer depends on who you are. Do you want to hold that stock for 30 years? 10 years? Or do you want to sell it in a year? Once you understand what you want, you will either pay attention to Google's current sales performance or analyze the potential of the high-tech industry over the next decade or 30 years. If you're a trader, the question of a fair price shouldn't be a concern at all, because all you need to do is squeeze a few bucks out of this stock, preferably before lunch today. If investors have different goals and different time horizons, then prices that seem strange to some may make sense to others, because investors are going to take into account different factors. This is the end of the book. Subscribe to the channel, give it a like, hit the bell, and leave any comments. Bye.